Hello, Christ is in our midst. I'm Father Kevin Long of St. Elias, St. Yorkin Orthodox Church in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Today's Thursday, March 30th, 2023, and here are the readings for today.
A reading from the book of Genesis, chapter 18, verses 20 through 33. Then the Lord said, "Because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and their sin is very grave, I will go down to see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry which has come to me, and if not, I will know." So the men turned from there and went toward Sodom. But Abraham still stood before the Lord. Then Abraham drew near and said, "Wilt thou indeed destroy the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou then destroy the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous who are in it? Far be it from thee to do such a thing, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous fare as the wicked. Far be that from thee. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right?" And the Lord said, "If I find at Sodom 50 righteous in the city, I will spare the whole place for their sake." Abraham answered, "Behold, I have taken upon myself to speak to the Lord, I who am but dust and ashes. Suppose 5 of the 50 righteous are lacking. Wilt thou destroy the whole city for a lack of 5? And he said, "I will not destroy it if I find 45 there." And he spoke to him and said, "Suppose 40 are found there." He answered, "For the sake of 40, I will not do it." And then he said, "Oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. Suppose 30 are found there." And he answered, "I will not do it if I find 30 there." He said, "Behold, I have taken upon myself to speak to the Lord. Suppose 20 are found there." He answered, "For the sake of 20, I will not destroy it." And then he said, "Oh, let the Lord not be angry, and I will speak again but this once. Suppose 10 are there." He answered, "For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it." And the Lord went his way, when he had finished speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. A reading from the book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 17 through chapter 17, verse 17. The highway of the upright turns aside from evil. He who guards his way preserves his life. Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. It is better to be of a lowly spirit with the poor than to divide the spoil with the proud. He who gives heed to the word will prosper, and happy is he who trusts in the Lord. The wise of heart is called a man of discernment, and pleasant speech increases persuasiveness. Wisdom is a fountain of life to him who has it, but folly is the chastisement of fools. The mind of the wise makes his speech judicious and adds persuasiveness to his lips. Pleasant words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the body. There is a way which seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. A worker's appetite works for him, his mouth urges him on. A worthless man plots evil, and his speech is like a scorching fire. A perverse man spreads strife, and a whisperer separates close friends. A man of violence entices his neighbor and leads him in a way that is not good. He who winks his eyes plans perverse things. He who compresses his lips brings evil to pass. A hoary head is a crown of glory. It is gained in a righteous life. He who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who takes a city. The lot is cast into the lap, but the decision is wholly from the Lord. Better is a dry morsel with quiet than a house full of feasting with strife. A slave who deals wisely will rule over a son who acts shamefully, and will share in the inheritance as one of the brothers. The crucible is for silver, and the furnace is for gold, and the Lord tries hearts. An evildoer listens to wicked lips, and a liar gives heed to a mischievous tongue. He who mocks the poor insults his maker. He who is glad at calamity will not go unpunished. Grandchildren are the crown of the aged, and glory of the sons is their father. Fine speech is not becoming to a fool, still less is false speech to a prince. A bribe is like a magic stone in the eyes of him who gives it. Wherever he turns, he prospers. He who forgives an offense seeks love, but he who repeats a matter alienates a friend. A rebuke goes deeper into a man of understanding than 100 blows into a fool. An evil man seeks only rebellion, and a cruel messenger will be sent against him. Let a man meet a she-bear robbed of her cubs, rather than a fool in his folly. If a man returns evil for good, evil will not depart from his house. The beginning of strife is like letting out water, so quit before the quarrel breaks out. He who justifies the wicked and he who condemns the righteous are both alike an abomination to the Lord. Why should a fool have a price in his hand to buy wisdom when he has no mind? A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. A reading from the prophecy of Isaiah chapter 42, verses 5 through 16. Thus says God, the Lord, who created the heavens and stretched them out, who spread forth the earth and what comes from it, who gives breath to the people upon it and spirit to those who walk in it. I am the Lord. I have called you in righteousness. I have taken you by the hand and kept you. I have given you as a covenant to the people, a light to the nations, to open the eyes that are blind, to bring out the prisoners from the dungeon, from the prison those who sit in darkness. I am the Lord, that is my name. My glory I give to no other, nor my praise to graven images. Behold, the former things have come to pass, and new things I now declare. Before they spring forth, I tell you of them. Sing to the Lord a new song, his praise from the end of the earth. Let the sea roar and all that fills it, the coastlands and their inhabitants. Let the desert and its cities lift up their voice, the villages that Kedar inhabits. The inhabitants of Selah sing for joy. Let them shout from the top of the mountains. Let them give glory to the Lord and declare his praise in the coastlands. The Lord goes forth like a mighty man. Like a man of war, he stirs up his fury. He cries out. He shouts aloud. He shows himself mighty against his foes. For a long time I've held my peace. I have kept still and restrained myself. Now I will cry out like a woman in travail. I will gasp and pant. I will lay waste mountains and hills and dry up their herbage. I will turn the rivers into islands and dry up the pools. And I will lead the blind in a way that they know not. In paths that they have not known, I will guide them. I will turn the darkness before them into light, the rough places into level ground. These are the things I will do, and I will not forsake them.
As you are aware of by now, I would hope, we in the Orthodox Church read from 3 books for the most part of Lent during the weekdays. And those 3 books are Genesis, Proverbs, and the prophecy of Isaiah. Well, today in the book of Proverbs, we have an excellent little verse that I would like to reflect on, and that is found again in Proverbs 16. It's verse 24. And that is, pleasant words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the body. I love that saying. I will probably have it written out and put somewhere in my office very soon. And when I think of that, I think of the joy of a honeycomb. I don't know how many of you have had the pleasure of eating a honeycomb or seeing how bees work, but it is really quite fascinating. I had the pleasure when I was younger of working as, well, a missionary sort of, in the hills of Kentucky. And one of the things we got to do was take care of honeycomb that was harvested from a beehive. We would put it into a centrifuge and crank it with our arms, and it would spin, and the honey would collect on the sides of the centrifuge and then fall to the bottom. And then we would take the hive honeycombs back out, and we would put other ones in and continue our work. And then when we were done, we would collect the honey, put them in jars, and then take a piece of the honeycomb and put it into the jar as a sign of how natural it was. And then I would bring it home. I would remember that, and I would taste the honeycomb, and it was just like nothing that I had had before. It was so good and so delicious. And the whole thing was just so beautiful and so wonderful. It reminded me of just how beautiful God is, because we have bees making the honey for their own use to take care of their young and so forth, but how delicious and sweet it is that we can have it too and harvest it in the way that we do, because we can harvest honeycomb and the bees will still be just fine, thank you very much. So that's a wonderful little relationship that we have with nature in doing that. But the sweetness of the honeycomb, the beautiful taste, the reminder of God's sweetness and God's goodness, all of these come to mind when I think of the harvesting of the honey, the tasting of the honey, and the enjoyment of the honeycomb. And so to hear this verse, a pleasant word is indeed like a honeycomb. How sweet it can be, how it can bring joy to the heart of the person who hears those pleasant words. And how good and therapeutic that is, because when we give words that are unkind or full of strife, it adds stress to our bodies, and that's no good at all. And so, listening to these words, we can then reflect. We can see, we can make a connection between the pleasant words that we can utter to each one of us, to each other, and to those that we love, and to strangers, and see how good that is to impart, just like a honeycomb is good, sweet, and delicious to those who partake of them. So I encourage us all to be utterers of pleasant words, that the words that we give will bring joy to the people around us. It doesn't take much work, much effort to give a good word to somebody around you. And you never know. Those words might be the very things that those people need to hear at that very moment. And then they will have joy in their own souls and health in their bodies. So, listening to this verse, reflecting on the sweet joy of honeycomb, and thinking about how God's love radiates through that, the honeycomb, and also through our pleasant words. Well, I thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you found these words helpful. If you did, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to this channel. Share it with your friends if you think that it might be of help to them. And, of course, as always, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below. In the meantime, I pray that God will bless you and those that you love today and always. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. You have a great day, and God willing, we'll see you tomorrow.